Hi, it's me, Liz, CEO of Worth It, positive and organisational psychologist that specialises in preventing mental health problems in children and young people through a whole school approach, peer-to-peer interventions and coaching. So I'm trying a new style of YouTube video and I've changed my location. So let us know in the comments if you like the new style of video. So today I'm going to be talking about early prevention of mental health problems in young people, why it's important and what it is. So many of the kind of de facto approaches and mainstream kind of thinking around working in the field of mental health with young people is a very clinically deficit focused approach. So what will happen is a child or young person will present with a mental health problem to a practitioner within a school, a teacher, a pastoral team member of staff, a member of SLT, or some incident will occur, some behaviour issue will kick off, or they'll be really anxious and school avoidant. There'll be some trigger that really draws your attention to the needs of that young person. So then what will happen is people will then try and triage or assess the needs of that young person to identify what's going on. And that really should be a qualified person who is experienced in understanding mental health needs of children and young people. So it might be a senior mental health lead, or it might be a practitioner of mental health and wellbeing in your school, the school nurse, a school counsellor. And usually what happens is we do some sort of assessment questionnaire like the GAD-7, PHQ-9, DAS-21, SDQ is a very popular one, Boxall profile. These kind of indicator tools which help us assess the needs of that child or young person. Then you might feel this young person is really in need of CAMS. You can make a referral through your mental health support team if you have one, if you have a linked support worker in your school, or you have the school nurse, or in the old days, we just used to say, take them to the GP. GP would put them on a massively long waiting list and things have not really got much better. So although we have increased access, excuse me. So we have increased the access pathway. So when I first started in this field 12 years ago, the only route to CAMS, Children and Adolescent Mental Health Services, was via the GP. So a child would present with an issue, the school would have to tell the parents to take them to the GP. That, might fall down at that stage because the parent might not want to take the child to the GP for whatever reason. The child would then be taken to the GP. The GP would maybe or maybe not know about adolescent or child mental health problems because GPs know a little bit about everything, and that might not be a thing that they're familiar with, and it certainly wasn't 12 years ago. And then they would make a referral into CAMS and they get added to a waiting list, and that's that. So since 12 years ago, what's happened is we've seen a rapid increase in mental health issues for young people to the most significant scale it has ever been. I wish I had some statistics off the top of my head, but it's 1 in 6 young people are presenting with a mental health need. There is a 1 in 4 chance of getting into CAMS. We have different wait lists depending on where you are in the country, different capacity. And the workforce is understaffed. So even if the government decided I'm going to put billions of pounds into supporting children's mental health, you just can't recruit a workforce quick enough to meet the demand. So the only way to deal with this is to actually offer more early prevention. So that's where Worth It comes in, and that's where my work has come in for the last 12 years, maybe longer, around how to use positive psychology and coaching approaches to prevent the onset of mental health problems in young people in the first place. Because during adolescence, we have a developmental stage where the brain gets stripped down and rebuilt. And if we can work with young people to reinforce some neural pathways for well-being and positive, helpful, healthy thinking strategies, and helping them develop their strategies for well-being and understand themselves enough to know what they need to do to help their well-being, and that they are proactively involved in looking after their own well-being during adolescence where their brain is being rebuilt, then that's a skill and strategy that they can take through life. We know that 50% of adult mental health problems start during adolescence. So if we can either start working with primary school children to help them develop these well-being habits and well-being strategies early, they take them through to secondary when they deal with that difficult transition into secondary, or we are teaching them these capacities for wellbeing at school, in an ideal world embedded into the curriculum. In a not so ideal world, but if we're working with what we've got, we are teaching them wellbeing strategies so that in a program that they can do, or in specific lessons, or through one-to-one coaching relationships, or through peer-to-peer interventions. So what we want to be doing is preventing the onset of mental health problems in the first place. So there's a famous approach, a famous sort of metaphor around stopping people falling in the river in the first place, rather than fishing them out when they're already drowning. So the approach that we've got at the moment is we're basically fishing young people out when they're drowning and hoping that they'll get some support, which isn't really available in enough capacity, and it never will be for a long, long time. So we can't just hope that someone is going to come along and fund a better NHS, a better mental health service for children and young people, because the kids that you're working with now and today, that's not going to benefit them, and they are going to be basically lucky if they don't develop a severe and enduring mental health problem for the rest of their lives that they have to then manage in adulthood. So that's where early prevention comes in. So early prevention can look like a whole school approach to a universal approach to embedding a wellbeing curriculum, which is a really good way of doing early prevention, because that means everybody's learning wellbeing strategies, everybody, staff as well, because wellbeing is facilitated through relationships and interactions. So we have to have good staff wellbeing in order to have good children and young people's wellbeing. So the whole school approach, which means that you can embed it into lessons and topics and sport and all different things that you're already doing, and really thread those threads of wellbeing through the entire curriculum. So it isn't a big extra thing that you have to do. Also, whole school approaches and universal approaches have been evidenced to benefit the young people who are more at risk, more than the other young people. So everyone benefits from it, but it picks up the ones that are at risk of needing targeted intervention, but they might not access any support. You might not know about them because they haven't flagged up any issues, and they're the ones that worry me the most. It's not the ones that are having the meltdowns or the outbursts that you are familiar with, that come to pastoral, that come knocking on your door on a regular basis. The more vocal ones, I mean, obviously they need their support. It's all the quiet ones, your high achievers that are staying up all night long revising and with a huge amount of anxiety, but because they're academically performing, they're slipping under the radar. Or the girls that go inside themselves and turn inwards to cope and bottle everything up, or the boys that are with toxic masculinity that are just shoving all their feelings down because they're really angry about something or they can't cope with something. So a universal approach will help address some of their needs and give them some tools and strategies. It might also bring these issues to the surface, which then means that you can target earlier those young people that are more at risk and put in place interventions to help them. And another type of early prevention intervention that is really helpful is peer-to-peer support. So we specialise at Worth It in Wellbeing Ambassadors programme, and I've got a whole load of YouTube videos about Wellbeing Ambassadors, primary and secondary versions. So Wellbeing Ambassadors is a peer-to-peer approach where we're teaching young people basic coaching approaches about how to have positive relationships and positive connections, and identify issues sooner, reduce access to support barriers, reduce stigma, open up communication and acceptance. Because if young people feel that they belong and they're connected to school, and that they feel safe there, and they feel that they have peers that they can talk to, and there's this kind of unconditional attitude of acceptance and belonging and connection and trust, that protects well-being, and that protects them against the onset of mental health problems, because they feel safe to access support earlier. But also the experience of being in that environment actually protects against the onset of mental health problems. So training groups of students to become wellbeing ambassadors and help each other through peer-to-peer interactions, even if it is just sharing a simple strategy or being present, just being present, and other young people knowing that there is another young person that they can talk to is hugely beneficial. And often I feel like when working with schools that they can feel like either well-being is one thing that they have to do. We have to do one big event, one big inset day, one big workshop for the students, and tickets done, whereas actually well-being is a million tiny small things that iterate over time and build up layer upon layer upon layer upon layer. So it's much more about the micro moments that facilitate well-being, and learning how to embed that in your ethos, or helping young people lead that way of being, so that it becomes embedded in your culture, and it's just part of the fabric of your school, so that when people visit your school, they'll go, oh wow, this is such a happy atmosphere, everyone's smiling, or there's no swearing, or there's it just feels good here. And nobody can really put their finger on why, because it's all these threads of well-being, and it's all these micro moments and interactions that have built this culture that protects against the onset of mental health problems. So that is your more universal or peer-led approaches to early prevention, which are both upstream prevention strategies. So we have upstream prevention, which is about preventing the onset of mental health problems in the first place by stopping people falling in the river. Then we have midstream, which is we're noticing earlier that they need help, and we're putting in place a targeted intervention because they are an at-risk cohort. So at-risk cohorts might be young carers, kids in care, people who have children who've had a family breakup, bereavement, LGBTQ, questioning young people, sort of any young person that's experiencing an adverse childhood experience. You could provide a targeted intervention for them, but majority of young people will have experienced an adverse childhood experience. Well, we all went through the pandemic, didn't we? So that's probably part of the problem. So taking a targeted cohort of young people and putting them through a group work program is very beneficial for young people, because they can see through their other young people that it's working for their peers, and they can actually see, oh, if it worked for them, it could work for me. And also it normalizes a lot of the stuff, and it breaks down stigma, and it helps them to realize that they're not alone, and there are other young people that are like them and similar and the same, which can, because young people, when they're experiencing poor mental well-being, can feel very isolated, and they can think that they're the only one that feels like that. So just being in a group can help with that. However, if they do feel like they're the only one that feels like that, they might not want to go to a group program or go to an intervention because they think they're not good enough. And one of the most heartbreaking things that I hear from young people as a barrier to mental health support, and maybe I want to make a whole video about this topic, is I don't want to be a burden, and I don't want other people to have to I'm not important enough. I'm not important enough for you to bother with me to help me. It makes me feel really sad that young people feel like that, and that's partly why Worth It is called Worth It, because it's about self-worth and that everybody is worth it. So helping young people realize that they are worth helping, and that they do deserve someone to help them, and that you can help them, is a massive step in providing early prevention. And even if all you do is help them access other support as a kind of conduit to help them access other support, then that's an effective early prevention strategy. And one of the things that we do offer at Worth It is coach training. So we specialise in using positive psychology and coaching psychology to help train practitioners, teachers and school leaders in how to coach young people. Because when we coach young people, we are firstly having that positive relationship that protects their well-being. We are then helping them increase and take responsibility and learn and understand themselves, so they are more self-aware, they're more regulating their emotions, and having a safe space to talk about things they want to talk about with a trusted, non-judgmental, safe adult, which is massively important in itself. Just the nature of the intervention is massively important for the experience of well-being and helping them to become resilient. So that process of being coached is beneficial. But also what we're doing in positive psychology coaching is we're teaching young people specific tools and strategies that are evidence-based that improve well-being. So what they're doing is they're having a go in that coaching relationship with different positive psychology tools like positive emotions or best possible self or strengths or goal setting, and talking about achievement and accomplishment and feeling pride and feeling motivated and all these different things that the coach will help them figure out, and the young person will lead the way it wants the sessions need to go, but the coach will help the young person figure out the tools and strategies that are going to help them. And then the young person will go out of the session and they'll practice these things, they'll have a go, they'll talk to their friends, they'll talk to their families, and they'll build up their skills and knowledge to use those self-help strategies. So it's very effective and a lot more it's a lot quicker than if you were to just say, here's a leaflet and off you go, which is kind of the limitations of what some young people get at the moment. So learning to coach young people can provide a way of helping young people identify their needs, put in place wellbeing strategies that they know will help them, so it's more sustainable, and they have the confidence to keep doing it even after you finish coaching them, because a coach should always be working to make themselves redundant, and it isn't about you creating dependency with a young person so they always need you. It's about providing a short-term intervention that really helps the young person to become enabled enough to help themselves and almost coach themselves and know what they need to improve their own well-being. So if we help young people with those kind of strategies, then it's an early prevention solution, but it's targeted because we're identifying the young people that maybe need that more intensive one-to-one support rather than something more universal. So in an ideal world, you'd have a universal curriculum, a universal approach where everyone's learning wellbeing tools and strategies. You would notice from that whether some young people just need something extra. You would put in place a coaching program, group work program, or intervention. You've also got school counselling. I'm not saying don't do school counselling, it's just different, or mentoring, but they're all kind of different tactics and they're different tools and strategies to use to really help young people. And what I want to encourage is introducing coaching into the mix as a really powerful way of helping young people increase their strategies for wellbeing and resilience. So if you want to find out more about coaching young people, then have a look on the link below at our coach training course page. And also I have a free webinar series that you can sign up where I go into a lot of depth into the theory and practice behind our coach training program. I also have a link below about the Wellbeing Ambassadors program that I've also mentioned in this video. And then the third way of providing prevention is downstream prevention. So we're already identifying the young people that are struggling and that we don't want it to get any worse. Now that is something that we don't tend to specialise in at Worth It, and other agencies and providers like CAMS or different bereavement support or different specialist agencies that specialise in working with the young people that are already struggling need to come in, and you need to really build out a map of different agencies and providers and think about what they do so that you can signpost on. But the real takeaway I want you to take away, the real message I want you to take away from this video is look further upstream and think about what can you do earlier. Because if you look earlier, although you might feel that you don't have time and capacity to provide early prevention, that it's a luxury you can't afford, it's actually a luxury. It's not a luxury, it's a necessity that you cannot not afford to do, because at the moment you will be taking up so much time and energy with young people who are already at crisis point, already needing a tertiary downstream prevention to stop them being long-term sick off school, or stop them dropping out, or stop them going to hospital school, or stop, all these issues, severe and enduring issues. Because there is such a lack of capacity for that, we really need to stop young people getting to that stage in the first place, either by providing more targeted intervention at that midstream phase, or more early intervention and prevention, downstream prevention through curriculums for wellbeing, our whole school approach, our culture and ethos, our policy, our processes, and the way we just do things in our school, which helps us have a happy environment, helps kids feel that they belong and that they're supported and they're encouraged and they're autonomous human beings with competence and positive relationships. And if we can do that, that will protect their mental health and well-being. So on that note, I'm signing off for today, and I hope to be back with a new video again soon.